Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of the MerriCast. This is going to be a weekly podcast where I'm just going to discuss whatever is relevant, whatever is new within the sphere of gaming that I inhabit, which is, primarily Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2. I've tried this kind of in the past with my Fan Fridays, but with those I always had kind of like this set list of topics to cover and questions to answer. And I always found it really difficult to do that. I've always been able to more eloquently express myself when I'm just kind of doing it freeform. So that's exactly what this podcast is going to be. I'm just going to, I have an idea of a few subjects I'd like to cover. I'm going to go over them. And that'll be that. You guys, you can post your questions and I can pick from some of them, answer them in the next podcast. We're going to have, guests on the podcast in the future. So we're just going to, we're going to run with this for now. We're just going to kind of let it evolve on its own. That being said, we have a lot to chew through on this first episode, and what I would like to talk about is Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV for about 6 years now, I'd say, since 1.0 Alpha and Beta. I haven't quit once. I've been playing this game non-stop for all 6 of these years. And I have to say, for the first time in 6 years, I'm incredibly disappointed with the direction Final Fantasy XIV is taking. I mean, this is coming from somebody who played all of 1.0, right? It was, let's face it, it was not a good game, but it was getting better as time went on. And I had a lot of faith in Yoshi P and his team, and then A Realm Reborn came out, and it was incredible. I loved all of A Realm Reborn. It was a great time for the game. Final Fantasy XIV, I feel, was never better than during the A Realm Reborn patches. And then Heavensward came out, and things just suddenly kind of started to get worse and worse. And that was really disappointing, because Heavensward, I felt, had such a strong launch. The story was fantastic, the flying was awesome, all the new zones and the new jobs were really fun to play. At least I really enjoyed Dark Knight. But very shortly after, it became really apparent that there wasn't a lot going on in the game. Like, there just wasn't as much content as they seemed to hype up. Also, I'm going to apologize. I've been sick for about a month now, and I've had a pretty bad cough, so my voice might be a little off. I might cough a little bit, I just want to apologize in advance for that. Anyways, back to Final Fantasy XIV. So, Heavensward came out, and it just kind of felt like it fell flat on its face after launch, right? I was a raider, right? All through 1.0. Granted, there wasn't really any raiding to do in 1.0. I did endgame in 1.0. Throughout all of A Realm Reborn, I raided. I considered myself a top tier raider. I beat, all of the coils when they were current. I beat Savage Coil when it was current. So I was for all intents and purposes, I was a hardcore raider, and I loved raiding. And I felt like in A Realm Reborn, it had a absolutely perfect balance, right? We had normal coil, which was difficult, but it wasn't too difficult. It was doable, and you felt some sort of progression every week, right? You got some gear, the fights were fun, that was great. And then we had Savage Coil for me and my static to chew on afterwards, because it's like, well, we've beaten Coil, so let's just go work on Savage Coil. And then we beat that, and it was incredibly satisfying. But then come Heavensward, we have Savage Alexander, and it felt like they just kind of mashed the two together, right? So now my progression and my reward for being incredibly difficult content were one and the same. And it just suddenly became incredibly taxing and not very fun, because I lacked that sense of progression that I got from the mid-tier raid that was Coil. And while they are supposedly fixing this in patch 3.2, it completely butchered raiding for me. And I honestly don't know if I'm going to go back to it, because they kind of burned me. And now that I haven't been raiding for so long, I've been enjoying spending, my time doing other things. That being said, the fact that I haven't been raiding, it really brings to light how little content there is in Final Fantasy XIV right now. I haven't capped my esoterics in weeks because gear doesn't matter outside of raids. I haven't done the Void Arc in weeks because, as fun as it is, you've done it once, that's it. And all the gear design didn't really speak to me, so I don't really want to run it for the equipment. And so I just don't really have anything to do in Final Fantasy XIV right now. At least that's how I feel. I don't really want to level jobs because I have the ones that I want to play leveled already. They're relatively well geared, so I'm not really concerned about that. And no other content really speaks to me. The primal fights are fun, but both Bismarck and Ravana are laughably easy. The only one I feel that's well balanced is Knights of the Round, the extreme mode. And that's certainly a step in the right direction, but we need more content like that. Like, one fight isn't gonna do it. And then it just feels like they've been wasting so many resources on content that just winds up being completely outshadowed or really poorly put together or poorly implemented, and people just don't do it. The diadem, for example. They put in the diadem. Who runs the diadem? I know I don't. I did it a few times. I did it pretty often back when the 210 gear was dropping like crazy, and I got like a full set of 210 gear for my ninja over the course of a couple of days, and I was like, well, this is kind of weird. Now I'm fully geared, and most of these pieces are actually better than what I could possibly get otherwise because I got really lucky with det and crit rolls on it. So it just it was really poorly implemented, and then they nerfed it, and now it's really like, well, what's the point in doing it unless you need the crafting items or you really want that hunting hawk? Because the diadem in and of itself isn't really innovative. It's just, they just took a bunch of islands, they put some mobs on them, and they're like, just go kill them and get loot. What's so exciting about that? We can do that in the open world, I mean, granted, we won't get the same amount of loot, but there just isn't anything fun, new, or exciting about it. They're like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to explore this island and find cool stuff, but it's like, that just isn't the case, You explore it and maybe you get a piece of I-180 gear from some random chest you found. Who cares about that? It doesn't matter. And like, it's not really that exciting. And to me, that was just really disappointing because they hyped this up as this awesome new content, but it didn't introduce anything new outside of a few mob types, There's nothing new about anything in there. The gathering is the exact same. Granted, there's, a few new items you can get. The combat is the exact same, except there's a brontosaur or whatever that can cast meteor and just wipe everybody. There isn't anything new or innovative about it. It's just rehashed content, and that's a big issue in Heavensward. The relic weapon, for example, they delayed it for so many months. They're like, oh yeah, we're working on it. We want it to be really good when it comes out. And now that it's come out, it's just rehashed content. They added literally no new things to do with it. It's just do Beast Tribe quests, run old dungeons, run Alexander normal a billion times. There's nothing new or innovative about it. It's just a slog. It's a grind. It's not fun. I gave up on it after 1 week. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to waste my time doing this, because by the time you get that weapon, unless you're one of the people who are really crazy and just ground hours and hours and hours and hours the first few days to get it, it's going to be completely irrelevant by the time patch 3.2 comes out. You're going to have it like a week before that patch drops. And then you're going to be like, well, okay, now people can just get a 210 weapon at the drop of a hat, probably, and there's already better weapons. And while I know these weapons are evolving, I feel like the timing for its implementation was just really poor. It's really frustrating that they keep making these decisions that just don't seem to make a lot of sense, and it's just upsetting the player base. Like, I can't find a single person these days, at least within like my circle of friends that all play Final Fantasy XIV, that is happy with the game. Most of them have moved on. Most are waiting for patch 3.2 because there's just nothing to the game right now that they at least that's how they feel. That's how I feel. And the thing is, like, I could go on and on about all the things with Heavensward that are just kind of like, what are you thinking? I mean, let's talk about Verminion for a little bit, right? They spent all this time working on Verminion, and nobody does it. Like, I did it the first day I got the Twintania minion or whatever, and that's it. I haven't played it since because it's really not that fun. The tournaments, people just cheat. They don't even play it properly. They just win trade to get the best reward for the tournament. This is an issue that they had with Triple Triad, yet it's happened again. It goes to show that they're not really thinking these things through. They don't have any sort of countermeasures in place to prevent this kind of cheating. And it's really disappointing because it happened a ton with Triple Triad, and they tried to fix it and it just didn't work. And then they just release Verminion, and it happens all over again. So I have no idea what they're thinking with any of that, and it's really disappointing. And the thing is, I wouldn't be so upset about all of this if I didn't love Final Fantasy XIV so much. This game is really, really important to me, and I want it to be successful, and I want it to be fun. But the decisions they've been making recently, they're really disappointing to me. And I really, really hope patch 3.2 shows that they've been listening to all of the the critique lately, and they take that to heart, and they actually put out some stuff that we want that's nice and polished and, not just half-assed. Anyways, that's sort of my Final Fantasy XIV rant. I wanted to get that out there. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure some people agree with me. I'm sure others of you out there may disagree, and I'd love to hear your reasons why. I really would. Because I feel like this is a discussion that really needs to be held. We need to be talking about this kind of stuff so Square Enix can, take note of it and understand that a good portion of their player base are really, really unhappy right now. And while the newer players have a lot of stuff to do, us veterans are kind of at a loss, And even those of us that are now casual, like I consider myself a casual Final Fantasy XIV player, but I can't find the want to log in anymore, and that really sucks. Like, outside of playing with my friends, it's like, well, if I log in, I don't really want to do the 2 dungeons that I've done a million times. I don't want to do Void Arc. I don't raid anymore. Verminion's awful. Chocobo racing is very poorly implemented. There just isn't a whole lot left for me to do because I've done everything else. So fingers crossed that patch 3.2 is like a miracle patch and it brings some much needed life back into the game. I know we're getting dyeable high elegant armor. I'm really excited about that. And the sad thing is, out of all we know about patch 3.2, that is what I'm most excited about. Glamour. that really says something. I really hope they release some news like, yeah, we're adding this awesome new system. Look forward to it. That being said, I've been having a lot of fun playing some other games recently. I was playing PSO2 for a while. I still kind of am. That is Phantasy Star Online 2. It's currently only released in Japan and Southeast Asia, but you can play it with some English patches. And it's a really fun game. I've really been enjoying that. If you watch my live streams, you've probably seen me play it before. I've been playing a lot of Guild Wars 2 as well. That's a very fun game. I played it a bit when Heart of Thorns launched recently, and I didn't get very far into the expansion, so recently I've been kind of catching up on everything that I missed, and I've been enjoying it. I started getting into structured PvP as well. I've been doing that on my live streams, and that's a lot of fun. And all around, I feel like Guild Wars 2 does a really good job of rewarding you for no matter what you're doing. And that's something that I don't really feel 14 does well. Like in Guild Wars 2, I can go and I can just, I can run a dungeon and I get a bunch of money and some good loot and I feel rewarded. I can run some events in a low-level map and I get, I get good stuff for doing it. I feel rewarded. Every single thing you do in that game, they're rewarding you in some way, shape, or form, whether it's with a specific currency or, achievement things or collection items or equipment or whatever. Like they're really good about rewarding you. So I feel like whenever I log into Guild Wars 2, no matter what I do, I get that sense of reward. And I really like that. I don't get that in Final Fantasy XIV anymore. And that kind of like doesn't do a great job of getting me to log in, because it's like I log in and there's no reward, and I don't feel like I'm making any progression, and I'm just like, well, what's the point? And then I log out and I go play another game. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing what patch 3.2 brings. Hopefully it fixes some of the issues I have with the game. I know it's going to be a slow process because there is a lot wrong with it right now, but only time will tell. So I think I will wrap things up here. I've covered what I wanted to, which is my grievances with Final Fantasy XIV. Please feel free to drop your comments about anything I spoke about in this episode of the podcast down in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys like this. We're going to try and make this a weekly occurrence. I'd like to say I got some other content on the way. I've been working on that Guild Wars 2 machinima. If you follow my Twitter, you'll know, a little bit more about that. It's coming along very well, and I'm very excited to show you guys this when it's finished. So look forward to the new content. It's a new year, 2016. We're going to be doing all sorts of awesome things here on the Very Merri YouTube channel. Same goes for my live stream. If you guys watch those, they are on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Sometimes there's a surprise stream. If you follow my Twitter, you can keep up to date on that. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next podcast.